Hi, good morning. Last session I explained about the introduction to Jira, and second session I explained Jira software setup. We have the two types of Jira software installation. So one is I explained Jira server software installation in our local system. How to do it is, then how to create the Jira cloud instance. Okay. So in general, for practicing purpose, we can go for the Jira Cloud instance. Once you practice Jira Cloud instance, you want to see that how the real-time Jira software is. Means you try to install the Jira server software, you can see the almost similar navigation, similar user interface are going to find. But Jira Cloud instance is simple to create. It is for practicing purpose. Now, today's session, I'm going to explain to you about the introduction to Agile Scrum methodology and terminologies in Agile Scrum. Why this concept is required for us? Because Jira is Agile Project Management. If you know about the Agile methodology and terminologies very well, it makes simple to you to use Jira software for your testing activities, project management activities. There's a reason agile methodology you should know it is. Now I'm going to explain in this session about the agile methodology and important terminologies and activities in agile methodology. Agenda for this session is introduction to agile methodology. What is epic? What is user story or story? What is task or subtask? Backlog refinement meeting or grooming, sprint review, sprint retrospective meeting, scrum meeting, story point, what is velocity in agile methodology, burn down and burn up charts. Apart that, who is product owner, what are the activities for the product owner, scrum master, for QA and developer, what are the talks are there. These all things with example, practical I'm going to show to you. Be patient, and it is one of the important concept as a developer or tester, knowing agile methodology. Now, agile scrum methodology. So whenever we talk about the agile scrum methodology, we can say it is straight away, it is an incremental and iterative framework approach to develop applications. It is an incremental and iterative framework approach to develop applications. In this approach, applications developed in terms of sprints. They won't take entire all requirements, or they won't take entire module. So they won't take whole system, or they won't take entire module also. They call here sprints. After development and testing of each sprint, that will be given presentation to the stakeholders, which is called sprint review, to get an approval and funding before they start for the next sprint implementation. This is the concept here. Very simple. They will divide the project into the in terms of sprints, small units. Okay, sprints we are going to call. Once those design, development, testing completed, which are given presentation to the stakeholder to get an approval before we start next sprint implementation. What is the duration for this sprint in general? Companies are going to maintain means. So, as for the companies, 15 days we are going to call. But in the textbook point of view, say 1 to 4 weeks of time, 1 day to 4 weeks out. That means small unit they are going to take. In Agile, deliverables can be expected within a day to maximum 4 weeks of time. That is an average. Every 15 days, sprint can be expected. These small life cycles we called as time boxes. The small life cycle, 15 days, whatever activities are doing to work on the sprint, that we are going to call time boxes, we are going to call. Now understand that diagrammatically here. Generally, product owner he is responsible who will go on to collect the business needs from the stakeholder as the inputs from stakeholder taken by the product owner and is going to prepare the documentation as a product backlog. That means what are the features we need to implement in the system. It says that product backlogs. So then sprint planning is going to be done. So in this, which features we have to, they won't take all the features here, which can be possible to develop within 15 days of time. And they will prioritize the features which are important. Based on that, they are going to the sprint planning. So in that sprint planning, they decide which team is to involve here and which requirements we have to implement. That is a sprint backlogs we are going to call. Current sprint, which requirements you have to implement sprint backlog. Then there will be a Scrum team we are going to call. The Scrum team members are the Scrum Master, few developers, and test engineers. Okay, the Scrum team size is going to be 7 to 9 members. That means so 3:1 ratio developers testers will be there, one or two test engineers. So 5 or 6 developers, one BA business analyst or Scrum Master we are going to call nowadays. So instead of business analyst, Scrum Master. Like the team is going to involve, they go for analysis of the backlog, sprint backlog analysis, design, build, that means coding, test, and they do the review. Scrum meeting we are going to call. Every day, Scrum meetings are going to be conducted, daily meetings, which we can also call as stand-up meetings or stand-up call we are going to call. In this meeting, usually they are going to discuss. So every day, what are the activities they done? So every person who is under agile team is accountable. What are the activities are done in the last 24 hours? The status of last 24 hours they are going to see. Every day that meeting is going to be conducted. How much work completed? As a tester, how much work is completed? The developer, how much work is completed? So if it is not completed, what are the problem we got? Is there any blockages, any issues we got, any problems we got? So and they are going to give the solution. They have to work on that current sprint like this. And once like 15 days are completed, so potentially shippable product is available, we can able to deliver this one to the stakeholder. Okay, so like this. So there is a once sprint is delivered to the customer, before going to the next sprint planning, they will conduct here product owner, scrum, not with the stakeholder, product owner, scrum master, scrum team members. That is called sprint retrospective meeting. The intention of the sprint retrospective meeting is while developing the previous sprint, so what went well, what went wrong, so where is where we need to improve. Okay. What are the situations we faced and where we need to improve our process. These things are going to be discussed. Based on they go for the better planning for the next sprint implementation. This is the agile software development block diagram it is. Now we'll see that advantages of agile scrum. Why? Nowadays, majority of the companies are going to prefer agile scrum to maximize a team's ability to deliver quickly and response to changing requirements. To maximize a team's ability to deliver quickly and response to changing requirements. To develop functionality in smaller and stable increments, that is sprints. To have potentially deliverable product in shorter periods of time. All are participating in Scrum meeting so that better visibility and communication. So when there are every person is participating meeting, no need to go for the detailed documentation for every activity. That's one of the disadvantages I'm going to say. Agile doesn't need too much of documentation like FRS, so like that. So detailed document not required. It mainly focus on frequent delivery of the product. Advantage and much documentation is not required when you go for the agile methodology. Here, different members are going to be there. We have to know about the this different person roles here. The stakeholder, SH, stakeholder. Stakeholder maintained by customer for project-based software. So here have some technical person he is. So or if it is a product-based software means then company only maintain the stakeholder. Generally, the stakeholder will provide a bridge between customer to your product owner. So this is the person who will provide customer business needs for your product owner. Then Scrum Master, Scrum team. So Scrum team it is. It is a self-organized team with a few developers, test engineers, design architect. Nowadays, in place of design architect, where we are going to find the Scrum Master, we are going to find to reduce the testing cost, team cost here, resource cost. They go for in place of design architect. Design architect will be there in place of business analyst. In place of business analyst, we are going to find the Scrum Master. We are going to say this Scrum team size is going to be 7 to 9 members. There can be multiple Scrum teams available for a project. Only one Scrum team is going to develop the application. Is no. So it is developed by them. So different teams are going to be involved here. Now, product owner who can have vision to build project and convey that vision to the Scrum teams. In simple to understand, we can say that product owner is nothing but a so project manager. In V model project manager, here we have the product owner. We have the vision, what we need to develop, how we need to implement. That is going to be shared to the Scrum teams. Who is responsible? Getting the requirements from the stakeholder. And he defines what features we need to develop in that product. That is a product backlogs we are going to call. Features of product, what we have to implement, that is nothing but we are going to call product backlogs. One of the terminology, backlogs is the terminology. So he will decide release date and content. So when we have to deliver the sprint one or product when we have to deliver and what content we have, what requirements we have to deliver in that. Prioritize the features according to the market value. Adjust features. Market values as per the application client is given. Which feature is most important? Accordingly, he has to prioritize features which we need to implement. Adjust features and prioritize for every iteration as needed. Every one sprint is developed. Next, before go next to sprint, he can adjust the features and prioritize it is. Accept or reject work result. Finally, whether the product is correctly developed or not, he can accept or reject as work result here. These are the product one. Mainly, you remember that. So mainly, we need to remember about the product owner who can have the vision to build a project and convey that vision to the Scrum teams. Who is responsible getting the requirements from the stakeholder and who is going to define the features of the product, what we need to implement. The Scrum Master, who will manage the process and also how the information exchanging among the Scrum team members. That is the Scrum Master responsible. Team members, how the information is communication among this Scrum team is going to monitor and process is going to define. Product backlog. That means product backlog means features which we need to implement in the product. Product owner create the product backlogs which contain the requirements from the customers, that is features which we need to implement. So that is sprint planning. Sprint planning, where it is coming here, we have seen that this is the sprint planning here. After product owner is prepared the product backlogs, before going to start implementation, we have the sprint planning. Right. Now we'll plan how many sprints or iterations required to build product. We have a lot of product backlogs. So in the how many sprints are required. So where we estimate the stories or story points. So that means what is the meaning of story point? This is one of the important terminology, story point. It is an estimation. given by tester or developer for specific story is called story point. So generally, the story point. So they may give like this: 1, 2, 3, 5. Like that, they are going to give the story point. The efforts required estimation means, so how much efforts are required to develop the particular requirement. That is story. The story point. So which is done during the sprint planning. Teams select the starting at top as much as it can commit to deliver by end of the sprint. So that means here sprint planning describes it, which features we have to take in the current sprint, how many sprints are required, how much efforts are required. The estimation also given in terms of story point. So story point is an estimation given by tester or developer for the specific story. Scrum meeting. Scrum meeting, every day they are going to conduct the Scrum meeting, which is also called a stand-up meeting. A stand-up call also are going to call. It will conduct every day to discuss on how much work completed in given task. So is there any blockage, any issues we got, any problems we got, any problems are affecting your development activities or testing activities? We have to discuss and we have to go for the solution. Then we have to start work on that, like this. Maybe in the middle you got the change request from the client. How much impact going to take? Are you going to continue in the current sprint, or you want to ask that to go for next sprint? This is what the blockages means. Then a sprint review. Once sprint is developed, we have to give the demo to the stakeholders to get an approval and gain funding for next sprint implementation. There is sprint review means. Sprint review means once sprint is implemented, we give the demo to stakeholder to get an approval and gain funding for next sprint implementation. There is sprint retrospective meeting within the agile team, not here, stakeholder, not customer, agile team. So they go for the sprint retrospective meeting, which is performed at the end of every sprint to learn with the past experiences or situations. To help to identify opportunities to improve the process. What are the points they are going to discuss during the sprint retrospective meeting? What went well? What went wrong? So, is there any areas we need to improve? So, these are the points they are going to discuss. Then, backlog refinement meeting or grooming. So remember that every point is important. You should understand true point of view as an experienced person when you go for the interview. So like 3 years of experience or 4 years of experience you are showing, you don't know about the what is refinement meeting or grooming like terminologies. So how you are going to justify your experience on testing, right? This all the terminologies you should aware of that. Grooming or refinement is a meaning that Scrum team is in which the product backlog items are discussed. What we need to implement in this current sprint. This user story. What is the procedure is there? What is the acceptance criteria for that? And what are the description for this? They are going to define step by step. They are going to write it is. There is a refinement meeting or grooming meeting a scrum team in which the product backlog items are discussed and the next sprint planning is prepared. So there will be acceptance criteria for the each product requirement. They are going to write it. They will write it, okay, and they are going to see that. So what, how the expectations are going to be. These all things are going to grooming is going to be given step by step. They are going to say it is. There is acceptance criteria means it is a checklist that determine if all the parameters of a user story and determine when the user story is complete and working. Now you know that this is a particular story they implemented. So finally, that is acceptable or not. To say that there are going to be some checklist here. That is the accept criteria. When we can accept particular so user story implemented sprint. Sprint will have the multiple user stories. Every story they are going to specify like this. So when the what is the acceptance criteria for this? Suppose test cases are prepared. When we can accept reviews completed, then we can go for the so test cases we can accept for the execution like that. Velocity. Velocity is a measure of the amount of work a team can tackle during a single sprint. That's that. So what is the velocity are going to give for this? So 5, 8, 3. Like this they are going to say that. That means they are going to say that 3 user stories I can handle in this current sprint. This is my sprint. So 5, one tester said that 5 user stories we can handle. So another developer said that we can go for 8 user stories we can develop in the current sprint. There is a velocity, measure the amount of work a team can tackle during single sprint and is the key metric in Scrum. Velocity is calculated at the end of the sprint by totaling the points for all fully completed user stories. Finally, what is the velocity for this? The previous sprint, how many user stories you completed? 3. Yes, your team velocity is 3. This is speed what they are doing here, like this. Next thing, burn down and burn up charts. Generally, so Scrum Master is going to prepare so manually. If we are using Jira tool, means Jira tool by default going to provides the this burn down and burn up charts. Okay, what is this burn down chart? What is the purpose of this thing? Mainly to track the progress of the Scrum project. These charts are important. What is this burn down chart? It shows how much work is remaining to be done. So in the project, how much work is still remaining to complete, says the burn down chart. Burn up chart, it shows how much work has been completed and the total amount of work. So now if you observe that this is the burn down chart here. So story point, iteration. So this blue represent the expected, the actual. So what happened actual iteration 10 we have to complete, but a little bit time is taken. The story point, nothing but user stories. How many user stories are taking iteration here? So time it is time 12 it is taken. More time it is taken. 12 iteration, sprint iterations it is. So it is one upshot. So this is the total amount of work is there, but it taken the more time like this it is saying that. Okay, so this is the way how we can go for this. The next another important terminology, product backlogs. Product owner collects the inputs from the executives team, so stakeholders, customers, and rank a list of what is required features. So features and stories, which are called product backlogs, which are whatever inputs are given by the stakeholder, the requirements or features are nothing but are going to call product backlogs. Epics. Epic means here large requirement which define the business needs. Suppose example if I go for as a user I need to use online banking application. That is the one epic large requirement. So this epic can be divided into the multiple stories. It defines the smaller requirement where epic can be divided into multiple stories. Suppose online bank application user epic it is. Story one, as a user I can log in into online banking application. As a user I can check my balance in my account. As a user I can log in and change my password. Like this story one, story two, story three. So generally product one is responsible for a to collect the epics and create user stories based on stakeholder requirements. You're not going to create these things, so your product only is going to do these things. Task defines the solution for every user story. We create multiple subtasks. For each story, developers and testers will work simultaneously. Every story. So developers and testers will work simultaneously. If suppose I go for example, as a user, I can log in into online banking application. Developer task, review the story, estimate the story, design, coding, unit testing, integration testing. QA task, review the story, test cases, test data, test execution, bug report. Where is test scenarios? Not mandatory. When you go for agile process, test scenarios are not required majority of the cases, right? So thank you, subscribe my channel, refer your friends. This is my telegram number, so you can use this one or WhatsApp number. It is now I'm giving the priority for this. Okay. Thank you. Bye.